out there, folks. How are you? I hope and pray all of my listeners had a happy and safe new year, and we welcome 2015. I'm psyched. Are you psyched? I am psyched for 2015. I don't know why, I just am. And from what I hear, the New Year's celebrations were safe across the country. Mostly, there were some people that wanted to try to wreak havoc on the celebrations with their protesting. But from what I understand, the police were managing to keep that to a dull roar and keep everyone safe. Obama ends the war in Afghanistan. We'll talk about that. And, of course, Malik Zulu Shabazz. He wants to go to war with the police. I did a quick report on that yesterday, and we'll talk about that. And we'll be talking about some other stuff, too, today on the Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. Thank you so much, all of you, for listening in today. If you have any questions for me, any comments, concerns, if you want to rant or vent, if you want to let me have it, maybe you're taking issue with something I say, that's fine. Feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. So as I said, I did a quick report yesterday on this Malik Zulu Shabazz guy. He is the former national chairman of the new Black Panther Party. He's currently the national president of the Black Lawyers for Justice. And the little bit that I played, the quick reports, of course, are only 2 minutes. So I had to play a very quick soundbite of him, but I want you to hear more of what he had to say during his Black Power radio, which is the official broadcast, by the way, of the new Black Panther Party. 2015, he says, is the year to build up an army. And not only that, but he talks about training this army and taking them to the gun range and making them do exercising and lifting weights and stuff. It's actually kind of comical if it wasn't so scary. But anyway, here is the first bite of Malik Zulu Shabazz.
Minister Malcolm X, he consistently teaches us self-defense. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad continuously teaches us self-defense. Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey teaches us self-defense. And we know our leader and our teacher, the Honorable Khalid Abdul Muhammad, teaches us self-defense.
So in that bite, what you hear is he's talking about self-defense. That's his message. He's talking about these former black leaders, these former black liberation. He doesn't mention Martin Luther King. He mentions Malcolm X. He mentions more of the radical black leaders and talks about how they taught self-defense. So that's what he sees is the main problem. He believes the black community needs to learn self-defense. Was what was going to help Michael Brown? Was he supposed to be defending himself against Officer Darren Wilson? Is that the problem? Eric Garner, did he need to learn defense against those 4 or 5 officers that were trying to effect an arrest on him? I don't understand where self-defense I mean, I'm not against defending oneself. In fact, I'm for it. I am all for self-defense. But you need to be in the right. You need to come to the situation with clean hands. Okay, we're not talking about people breaking the law. We're not talking about robbery suspects who come into contact with law enforcement, and then somehow we're supposed to believe that they have every right to defend themselves against law enforcement. I'm sorry, I disagree. Law enforcement has every right to defend themselves from people who break the law, people who resist arrest, people who attack them and try to take their firearm, try to bum rush them, try to use their power and exert their power over law enforcement people. So what about the police and their right to self-defense? Anyway, Shabazz continued.
What am I saying? Right now it's time to build up that army. Right now it's time for us to build up those corps, those troops. It's time to get strong. It's time for lifting weights and working out and going to the gun range and all of that.
So you hear Shabazz in that soundbite. He calls them corpse, kind of the way Obama used the word corpsman, like a buffoon. But anyway, he calls them troops. I mean, he's wanting to train soldiers and send them to war with the police. He wants his fighting force to be fit. He wants them to exercise and lift weights. He wants them to be well trained. He wants them to go to the gun range. What's that for? Other than to work on your firearm handling technique, to work on your shooting skills, your accuracy. This guy wants an army to go to war with the police. If that wasn't so scary, I mean, it would be funny listening to this guy talk about how he wants them working out and lifting weights and stuff. Literally building an army to fight against the police. How ridiculous. But he carried on. Here's the next Shabazz bite.
Those are the parts that we can take care of, and then it's going to be things that are outside of our control, that are going to seem calamitous, that are going to seem tragic to America and white America. It may even shock our own consciousness.
So he's understanding that it's going to be tragic, and he says, of course, tragic to white America and shock our own consciousness. I don't know exactly what he means by that. Whenever he says our own, our people, my people, his, our, my, he's talking about black people, is he not? So is it going to shock this violence against white people is going to shock the black people's consciousness? Is that what he's saying? I'm not exactly sure. All I know is this can't be good. This is very violent rhetoric, and it just can't be good. And here's the next one.
Some people are tired of everything I just said. Some people are either tired or not patient enough to deal with everything I said, and they're tired of seeing our people killed and murdered. And therefore, these people who we know nothing about, we don't have any connection to, we only see them on the news. We don't know how they were inspired. But we know that they are going to be killing some people in 2015.
So he says he knows people are tired of it. I know I'm tired of it. I've had all I can stand of these people calling for justice when justice was already served. I've had all I can stand of that. Yeah, I'm very tired of it. He knows they're going to start killing people in 2015. As long as the police are killing our people. There's his reference to our people again. So when he lumps himself in, when he says our people, does he just mean the black community, or does he mean the black community that commits crime? Is that the community he's lumping himself in? Because these are the ones that end up in contact with law enforcement and then end up fighting law enforcement one way or another and end up getting themselves killed. So when he says our people, does he only mean the percentage of the black population that commits crime? Or does he mean all of the black population? Because I'll bet you there are blacks who disagree with him. In fact, I'm sure of it. I'm just wondering how he lumps himself in with these people. But it's going to start in 2015. That's what he said. He wants it to start now. He wants his army trained, and he wants to go to war with the police. And he continued. And
unfortunately, police officers are going to be killed. As a result of killing us, they have inspired people in the population to go off and retaliate against them. That has nothing to do with us.
So, unfortunately, police officers are going to be killed. And he says that's as a result of them killing us. And again, he lumps himself in with the ones that are being killed by police. I'm assuming he means Michael Brown, Eric Garner, these types of cases. Again, Michael Brown, felonious robbery right before contact with Officer Darren Wilson. Michael Brown, attacking Officer Wilson, trying to grab his weapon. Michael Brown, bum rushing Officer Wilson until Officer Wilson had to stop him. Is that when he says killing our people, is that who he's lumping himself in with? Eric Garner. Eric Garner had been arrested 31 times prior to that incident. Eric Garner was breaking the law. Eric Garner was resisting arrest when the officers were trying to effect an arrest because he was breaking the law. And now all of a sudden, what? This guy Shabazz is lumping himself in with Eric Garner? Does Shabazz not want police to arrest him when he breaks the law? Does Shabazz think that Michael Brown and Eric Garner should just have been able to commit crime and then go on their merry way without any contact from law enforcement? Is that what he believes? I think Shabazz needs to take a good long look at the facts of these cases and come to an understanding about what the job of law enforcement is and why they're supposed to stop criminal activity and what happens when you resist when they are doing their job and trying to stop criminal activity. But anyway, Shabazz went on.
But it had just happened. It has happened in 2014. It has happened in 2013. And sadly, because America won't do justice to black people, more and more people are going to lose balance and simply go off.
He says more and more people are going to lose balance and simply go off. He must mean these lone wolf attacks, these people that just come out of the woodwork. They start posting their hate on social media, on Facebook and Twitter, and they say that they're going to go give some pigs wings. This must be who he's talking about. These people that lose balance. I'm sorry, but Shabazz, you've lost your balance. We are a nation of laws. We are supposed to be a law-abiding people. And when people, I don't care what color you are, when people break the law and they come into contact with the law, with people whose job it is to enforce the law, and I don't care what color those people are either. I don't care if it's a white cop shooting a black criminal, and I don't care if it's a black cop shooting a white criminal, especially if they're resisting arrest or the criminal is attacking the officer. That's what's going to happen. That's what needs to happen. We can't just blanketly say police need to stop killing people. The police do not go around hunting these people down. That is what the media would lead us to believe, but that is not the case. And Shabazz needs to take a good hard look at the facts and understand that that is not the case. And let's finish off Shabazz with his last soundbite here.
And so we're going to have funerals. Mike Brown going to have funerals. Remain Brisbane had to have his funeral. Eric Garner in New York. My brother in Ohio, all over the country. We're having our funerals. But now they must put on their dress blues and have their funerals too. It's a hell of a day.
And so now Shabazz is calling for more funerals. Michael Brown had his funeral. I'm not sure I don't remember the other name he named, but then Eric Garner again had his funeral. And then he referred to what he called the brother in Ohio or something, his funeral. The big cases that most people are familiar with, Michael Brown and Eric Garner. Michael Brown did not have to have a funeral. Okay, when a police officer tells you get out of the road, you get out of the road. What's so hard about that? When he was getting out of the car, the officer, Michael Brown, did not have to shove the door back on him and reach into the window, punch the officer, and try to grab his gun. Michael Brown did not have to do that. Michael Brown chose to do that. And then when the officer got out of his car finally, because Michael Brown was fleeing with the cigarillos that he just stole from the convenience store, he did not have to bum rush Officer Wilson like he's going to tackle him in the street, like he wants to fight him. That's what did not have to happen. Malik, Zulu, Shabazz, if you want to do something good in this situation, go to those residents. Go to these communities and tell these people, first of all, stop committing crime. Second of all, when you commit a crime, fess up. Accept responsibility for your actions. And if an officer of the law needs to effect an arrest on you, this brings us to the Eric Garner case. This man had been arrested 31 times prior to this. He knew the drill. He knows what being arrested means. You're not going to argue your way out. I've been over this. You're not going to swing your arms and you're not going to say no to the police officers. You're not going to tell them, no, you're not arresting me today. This ends here. No, you don't do that. When you are breaking the law and the officers need to effect an arrest, and I know this is a very stupid law. This law is all about taxes in New York State. This law is all about greed of the local government there, wanting to make sure that any cigarettes sold have the tax stamp of New York. And there was a crackdown on this because they know that people are going out of state, buying cigarettes, and bringing them into New York, selling them cheap. And it really, that's what this law was all about. And it is a stupid law. I agree. And it shouldn't be. But it is the law. And when you are breaking the law and an officer is effecting an arrest, you say, yes, sir, and that's it. Like I said before in the past, there's two ways you can be arrested, vertically or horizontally. It's up to you. You can be arrested on your feet or on your belly. It's completely up to you. Eric Garner he chose not to be arrested on his feet. And he was taken down and arrested on his belly. And while he was in custody, laying there, he was an obese man, he had a heart attack. Eric Garner would be alive today if he did not resist arrest. That's the bottom line. And Michael Brown would be alive today if he did not attack Officer Wilson and try to grab his gun. I do not understand what Shabazz thinks of these cases. I don't understand how you can look at these facts and think that the officers were wrong for what they did, or that these deaths were somehow wrongful on the parts of the officers. And then he says they're going to have to get in their dress blues and go to their funerals, the police. Well, he got what he wanted. He got police funerals. We got Officer Lou and Officer Ramos of the NYPD gunned down by one of these vigilante lone wolf nut jobs who decided he was going to put some wings on pigs. And he posted that on his social media, and then he went and did it. Is that what he's talking about? Tell me this man is not inciting violence. Inciting violence. Wanting the violence. Calling for the violence. And not just any kind of random crazy violence. He wants people trained and fit to be able to carry out the kind of violence he's calling for. Who remembers this? This is a soundbite of Farrakhan not that long ago. Who remembers this?
As long as they kill us and go to Wendy's and have a burger and go to sleep, they're going to keep killing us. But when we die and they die, then soon we're going to sit at a table and talk about retired.
When we die and they die. Is that not calling for violence? I don't want to hear any spin on this. That was what the media played. That little soundbite was played over and over. But I want you to hear more. This is almost 3 minutes long, but I'm gonna make you sit through it. Listen to his comments leading up to when he said, when we die and they die. He talks about white folks are going to tell us to be peaceful. But then he speaks against the idea of being peaceful. Listen to this.
White folks gather preachers and politicians and educators. And for God's sake, tell the students that whatever comes down, we'll accept it and we'll protest. We're going to protest, but we must be peaceful. See? But the young, they are not going down being peaceful. That's right. And listen, watch now. Because once it starts, it's on. You may not want to fight. But you better get ready. Teach your baby how to throw the bottle if they can't bite. We're going to die anyway. Let's die for something. Now, my Muslim family here, imams, and my Christian family, in this book, there's a law for retaliation. A law for retaliation. Like for like. The Bible says, an eye, a tooth, a life. See, now, as long as they kill us and go to Wendy's and have a burger and go to sleep, they're going to keep killing us. But when we die and they die, then soon we're going to sit at a table and talk about we tired. We want some of this earth, or we'll tear this country up.
Is that not an incitement to violence? And he did that at a college. Young people with energy, with the energy to go out there and be violent. And it's working. We had NYPD officers killed. We had just on this past week, we had shots fired in Ferguson. Did you hear about that? Shots fired at Ferguson police who were investigating a robbery. What is the end game for someone like Shabazz, for someone like Farrakhan, for these people that are going around inciting violence? Ask yourself why. What on earth is the end game? What is the goal to go out there and fight and go to war with the police? He named his enemies, the police and white people. I've told my listeners before, get armed, get your permit, learn how to defend yourself. We'll be back. Stay right there.
You're listening to the Ray Warner Show. Resistance is futile.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
What makes the miracles of Jesus even more miraculous? Standing where they happened, in Israel. Come explore Jerusalem, where Jesus opened blind eyes. Visit the hills of Galilee, where Jesus fed the multitude. Stroll through Capernaum, where Jesus lived and taught and healed. To learn more about standing where it all happened in Israel, visit www.goisrael.com. Come visit Israel.
You'll never be the same.
I came home last night and my door was smashed open. It's like they knew right where to go. Like they'd been in my house before. They got my cameras, the silver, the coins. My husband's beautiful old shotgun. They took my jewelry. I can't believe it. It's all gone.
Each year, more than 4 million homes are burglarized in the U.S. Keep your valuables safe and secure with a safe that gives you an extra margin of protection. A Liberty safe is built tough and offers the most technologically advanced security features available. Plus, Liberty safes are independently certified for residential security, and they're built right here in the U.S. Don't take a chance when it comes to your home security. Purchase a Liberty safe for the things you value most.
Some things can be replaced. Some just can't.
To learn more, go to libertysafe.com.
You are listening to The Ray Warner Show.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. If you want to email the show, if you have any comments, any questions, or any feedback, I really enjoy the feedback. Please feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Now, if you didn't know, what's interesting about the end of the year is it's kind of, you know how Friday is a media dump day. Every Friday, the media dumps news out late in the day that they know people aren't paying attention. They just got home from the work week and they're getting ready for the weekend, and so they dump news that they really don't want out there. And they know people aren't paying attention anyway. So it's known as the Friday media news dump. But anyway, the end of the year, this whole time leading up to Christmas, And then Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, everybody's shopping, everybody's wrapping presents, everybody's making their lists and checking them twice. And then, of course, you have the week in between Christmas and New Year's. Everybody's getting ready for New Year's, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, people getting the day off. All of this stuff going on. And really, most people aren't going to be back into the swing of things until like Monday the 5th. That's when people are going to be back into, okay, the holidays are officially over. You know, the holidays and the weekend and all that. And Monday comes, January 5th. That's kind of going to be when everybody is back on track, paying attention, you know, having their lives back where they were. So the last 2 weeks of the year is kind of like it's a whole media dump week. Media dump December. So what happened during those last 2 weeks when people weren't paying attention? Well, if you didn't know, 5 more Gitmo detainees were released. Did you hear about that? This is from Fox News. U.S. releases 5 more Guantanamo Bay prisoners, sends them to Kazakhstan. The Defense Department announced Wednesday. That was, what, New Year's Eve, right? Wednesday they did this. That 5 more prisoners will be transferred out of Guantanamo Bay to another nation in the latest step by the Obama administration to whittle down the prisoner population in pursuit of ultimately closing the camp. These 5 men will be transferred to the Central Asian nation of Kazakhstan for resettlement, the U.S. government announced. The 2 men from Tunisia and 3 from Yemen, who have been at the camp for a dozen years, had been cleared for release from the prison by a government task force but could not be sent to their homelands. The U.S. has sent hundreds of prisoners from Guantanamo to third countries, but this is the first time Kazakhstan has accepted any for resettlement. Do you feel good about this? Do you feel good about 5 Gitmo detainees going to Kazakhstan? Are they going to be closely monitored in Kazakhstan, or are they just going to fall right off the grid? We know that the other detainees we've released have been thrown back into circulation, and they are now fighting and killing U.S. soldiers. So does anyone else think that it's a bad idea to be sending them to Kazakhstan? Yeah, so that was one of the media news dumps. That happened, they announced that on New Year's Eve. How much news were you paying attention to on New Year's Eve when you were getting ready for the ball to drop? Then, of course, Obama announced the end of the war in Afghanistan. Here's a soundbite of that.
This month, after more than 13 years, our combat mission in Afghanistan will be over. This month, America's war in Afghanistan will come to a responsible end.
So Obama made the announcement that the war in Afghanistan this month is over. The war this month in Afghanistan will come to a responsible end. So let's take a look at what he didn't say. What President Obama did not say is that the war was won, is that our troops achieved victory, is that the enemy had been decimated, is that the Afghan people had been freed and are now running their own nation securely. And even if he had said that, have we not been down this road before? How many of you recall a President Obama announcing a secure and self-reliant Iraq? Yeah, we've been down this road before. But see, Obama doesn't learn from his mistakes. Actually, he doesn't think he makes any. But he doesn't learn. Okay, we have definitely been down this road before. Obama said this about Iraq.
The Iraq war is over. The number of our troops in harm's way has been cut in half, and more will soon be coming home.
But we know better. Yeah, he's calling the war over, not because we won it, just because it's over. The war is just ended, just the end. That's it. But back in 2007, this is what President Bush said about prematurely ending the war in Iraq.
I know some in Washington would like us to start leaving Iraq now. To begin withdrawing before our commanders tell us we're ready would be dangerous. for Iraq, for the region, and for the United States. It would mean surrendering the future of Iraq to Al-Qaeda. It would mean that we'd be risking mass killings on a horrific scale. It would mean we allow the terrorists to establish a safe haven in Iraq to replace the one they lost in Afghanistan. It would mean increasing the probability that American troops would have to return at some later date to confront an enemy that is even more dangerous.
How did he get that so right? I want to ask my liberal friends out there who think that George Bush is just a big doofus, and they think Barack Obama is the smartest man on the planet. How did the big doofus George W. Bush nail it on Iraq back in 2007? And how did the fool Barack Hussein Obama get it so wrong? How? Because we now see what's going on in Iraq. And what's going on in Iraq, just like Bush said, there would be mass killings. There would be our troops having to return at a later date to fight an enemy even more dangerous. And we now have one, don't we? We replaced the old Islamic nut jobs with some new Islamic nut jobs that Barack I called the JV team. How did he get that so wrong? And how did Bush get it so right? If the Iraq war is over, who the heck are we bombing over there, Mr. President? Aren't you on some kind of bombing campaign in Iraq and Syria, for that matter? If the Iraq war is over, what's going on? We now have the rise of ISIS, the rise of the Islamic State. These people who are gaining power and money, and they're killing people publicly, public beheadings. They're videoing these beheadings, and they're putting them on the internet. But that war is over, and Iraq is now stable and self-reliant. So what are we to believe when he says that Afghanistan is now secure and that we can now end the war responsibly in Afghanistan? We already know he was wrong about Iraq. He's either wrong or he lied. Take your pick. What are we supposed to believe about Afghanistan? Colonel Allen West went on the record. It was Kimberly Guilfoyle who was sitting in for Greta Van Susteren. So here was the exchange between Kimberly Guilfoyle and Allen West on Obama's move in Afghanistan.
A flag-lowering ceremony marking the official end of U.S. combat missions in Afghanistan. And today, just 24 hours later, Taliban insurgents in Afghanistan declaring the defeat of the U.S. and its allies in the 13-year-old war. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West joins us now. Can you believe it? 13 years. Hard fought. Yeah. And now the Taliban saying that they defeated us and the U.S. allies. Come on.
Well, greetings, Kimberly. Greetings. And one of the things we have to come to understand, there was a quote by Austrian military strategist Karl von Clausewitz, who said, war is the imposition of one's will upon another. We, at no point in time, have imposed our will against the Taliban. We have not vanquished the enemy from the battlefield. There have been no capitulation. And one of the sayings that I heard them say quite often in my 2.5 years in Afghanistan was that you may have watches, but we have the time. And when we look at Afghanistan, it is not a war in and of itself. The real war against Islamic totalitarianism, Islamofascism, and jihadism and terrorism continues on. Correct. Afghanistan was just a combat theater of operation in that greater war.
Well, he makes a lot of sense, doesn't he? War is the, what was that quote? War is the imposition of your will on another. Have we done that with the Taliban? Ask yourself that question. Has there, like he said, there's no victory. We have not vanquished the enemy. The Taliban have not capitulated. You know, I'm reminded of the end of the Third Reich. Hitler was, he was just found himself in a very bad place, and he killed himself. And that was pretty much the end of that. And on the other side of the war, the other axis of evil, have you ever seen the video of General MacArthur on that battleship in the Pacific Ocean? And I don't think it was Hirohito himself. It was it was the Prime Minister of Japan, I believe, who ended up going there and signing the surrender for Japan. I mean, you talk about humiliation. The Japanese, these are a very proud people. These are people who they do everything they can to save face. And for them to do that, for them to go through with this humiliation of signing a surrender, and General MacArthur did not make it humiliating. He did everything he could to be accommodating, and it was really more about ending the war as far as he was concerned. But in this case, again, there has been no capitulation of the Taliban. They haven't surrendered. They haven't conceded anything. In fact, what they've done, as you heard Kimberly Guilfoyle say, is announce that they're victorious. They've won a victory over the U.S. and our allies. This Taliban, this group of raghead fighters, believes they have achieved victory over the United States because Obama is bringing the war to an end. You know, we used to free people, the United States. Now we just go in and we get ourselves killed for a while and then we leave. That's just what we do. So here we go again. Same as Iraq. Same situation. Same move. Obama doing the same moves, just pulling out without any job being done. And gee, I wonder if that will have the same result. How long before the Taliban moves in and takes over Kabul? How long? We'll be back. Stay right there.
Shocking news. 666, the mark of the beast in the NIV. God said, man said.com.
Bible rewires addicts' brains. Geologists floored by water rock. God said, man said.com.
Dinosaurs and man contemporaneously. Hours of text and audio. God said, man said.com.
Radiometric dating and a 6,000-year-old Earth. Honey and the finger of God. Free love's deadly superbug. God said, man said.com.
John and I just couldn't afford health insurance anymore. We exercise, we eat right, and we live a healthy lifestyle. Yet we were paying over $800 per month for a family of 4. Then a friend told us about MediShare. MediShare isn't insurance. It's a nationwide network of Christians who save money by sharing in each other's medical bills. Our share is almost 40% less than our old insurance premiums. We still see the same doctors and use the same hospitals if something does happen. The best part is that participating in MediShare exempts us from the tax penalties in the new health reform laws. So as long as we're in the program, the government's mandates to buy expensive insurance won't apply. You should call them today. I'm sure glad we did.
If you're a Christian, under 65, and a non-smoker, then MediShare could be the right choice for you. Call 1-866-330-8585 or visit meta-share.org. You do have a choice.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. If you want to email the show, if you have any comments for me, any questions for me, or any feedback, feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. You know, just pulling out of Afghanistan, just abandoning Afghanistan the way he abandoned Iraq. He abandoned Iraq, and ISIS is just moving through there. They were taking over city after city that we fought and died for. Our soldiers went over there and fought and died for these cities. And Obama just abandoned it. He surrendered, effectively, diplomatically, to Cuba. We've had this 52-year policy, and he just up and surrendered it. There's no change in Cuba. We did not achieve any objective. We had this embargo on Cuba, right? We didn't achieve the objective that the embargo was meant to achieve. So why is he surrendering that? Obama's weakness on the world stage He's a laughingstock. It's what makes people like ISIS rise up. It's what makes somebody like Putin welcome Crimea back to the homeland, back to the nation just recently. It's what makes somebody like Putin go into Crimea. Obama going around the world, capitulating himself to other world leaders, apologizing for the United States, talking about the greatness of other countries, and talking about how reprobate we are and how bad the U.S. is because we dare to impose freedom on other people. How dare we? This man goes around capitulating to other countries, giving in to our enemies, and speaking out against our allies, like Israel. But then, of course, Jay Carney says, that Israel has no greater friend than this administration. Forget all that. That's a lie. Obama has not been a friend to Israel. Recently, John Bolton had this to say about the world that Obama is creating with his weakness here in America. Listen to this.
Well, it was a pretty grim year, and it's going to be worse in the year ahead. In addition to the problems that you've already mentioned, of course, you've got Iran's nuclear weapons and ballistic missile program, North Korea's programs, a host of other threats from China and Russia. But I think the overarching problem that the United States has faced this past year, and which will also get worse, is the self-induced weakness of the administration's policies, both the perception and the reality of an uninvolved, withdrawn, unassertive America. It's not just military power, it's political power as well. America can protect its interests and those of its friends and allies when it operates from a position of politico-military strength, because that helps dissuade and deter adversaries from acting in the first place. The sign on the White House door now is if you've got advantages you want to seek against the United States, get it done in the next 2 years.
I mean, did he nail that or what? He just absolutely nailed it. Obama's weakness, and it's completely willful. It's like he took office so that he could do this intentionally, go around the world and be weak. And like Bolton says, whether it's perceived or in reality, he is perceived as weak. And the reality is his positions are weak. His positions are weak against Iran, against North Korea, against Putin, against ISIS. His positions are weak against Hamas. His positions are weak against all of our enemies. He's surrendered to Cuba. I don't know what's going on over there in the Middle East with ISIS. He hasn't really done anything over there. He says he's bombing them, but who knows what's going on. And now he's surrendering Afghanistan. This is what he's doing. And like Bolton says, he is inviting anyone that wants that edge against the United States. Look, figure out how to do it now. I'm only going to be president for another 2 years. Figure out now how are you going to do it. Because he's going to let them do it. He is the world is spiraling out of control, and it's going up in flames because of this weak, pathetic, incompetent president. He has no idea what he's doing, and it shows. And he's got to go. He has just got to go. And speaking of people who have got to go, this was a story that captured my interest. This is from Breitbart. Poll shows Republican voters overwhelmingly want members to remove Boehner as Speaker. Folks, that is music to my ears. Republican voters nationwide overwhelmingly want their House representative to elect somebody other than Representative John Boehner, Republican Ohio, as Speaker of the House. A new poll from Pat Caddell's organization, Caddell Associates, shows. A whopping 60% of voters who voted for Republicans in the last election either definitely or probably want their member of Congress to elect someone other than Boehner on January 6th when Congress convenes. Please, representatives, get rid of this spineless. How does this man stand up straight with no spine? That's what I need to know. I am so sick and tired of him caving to Obama and then talking about how he's going to fight at some later date. And then he never does. He just caves and then claims he's going to fight, repeat. Cave, claim to fight, repeat. If the House does this, if the House gets rid of Boehner, man, will that be a huge step in the right direction. And one more story before I go. This one caught my interest too because I think it's hilarious. This was my idea, by the way. South Korean U.S. activists to airdrop balloons carrying the interview into North Korea. This is awesome. A North Korean defector turned South Korean activist announced on Wednesday that he is planning to launch approximately 100,000 balloons carrying copies of the controversial film The Interview into North Korea by air. The controversial film unveils a covert plan to assassinate North Korea's young communist leader Kim Jong-un and reveals the deceptive friendship between an American TV show host and Kim. It eventually gives way to the reality of the depraved nation's true intentions toward the West. Activist Park Sang-hak said he will launch his political attack in late January in an attempt to debunk a personality cult that has been built around dictator Kim Jong-un via his oppressive communist regime. According to the Associated Press, the balloons will hold DVDs and USBs with the movie on them and will include Korean subtitles. This is great. This was my idea, by the way. Get some well, he's going to airdrop them. I said they ought to just send them over the border with helium balloons, but this is even better. Airdrop those bad boys in there and show them that this is what you do when you try to push people around that are free. South Korea is a free nation. And we, of course, we're supposed to be a free nation. And North Korea tried to impose its communist will on us and on this movie and on freedom of speech, and we ain't having it. And obviously South Korea ain't having it. Certainly this Park Sang-hak ain't having it. And I just think that's great. Spread those babies all over the place. I want the whole world to see this movie now. And that is going to do it, folks. Thank you so much for listening this week to The Ray Warner Show. I am Ray Warner, your host. And again, if you want to email me, if you have any comments, any questions, any problems with something I've said, feel free. Let me have it. You can email me at theraywarnershow@gmail.com. And just to let you know, I don't know how you listen, but there are any number of ways you can listen to The Ray Warner Show and to the Daily Quick Report. You can subscribe at theraywarnershow.com and you'll get a link in your email. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Every show is posted on Facebook and on Twitter. And if you go to iTunes, you can subscribe there. You can also download it from the website, theraywarnershow.com. And that way you can have it on the go. But however you listen, I am so grateful and thankful that you do. Happy New Year, and I pray the Lord blesses each and every one of you out there throughout 2015. And we'll see you next week. So long, folks.